Welcome to the Wow Effect. This is where 6 and 7 figure women share the raw, unfiltered stories of how they built their empires. I'm your host, Mallory Steele. The room is ready. Let's get into it.
So, welcome to the Wow Effect podcast. Adriana, I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. Excited you could join. Maybe you can kickstart just sharing a little bit about your journey so far. Like, where did you start and where are you at today? That might take a little bit.
Beautiful. So my name is Adriana Ostapenko. I've been a real estate investor for about 10 years now. This has been starting from nothing and growing a business into owning multifamily apartment buildings. And we are currently in the process of building our first apartment building. This is going to be a 28 units purpose-built rental in St. John, New Brunswick. So I've put in a lot of work, a lot of hustle, and it completely changed our financial life. And that was the intention to begin with, was how do I build wealth, long-term wealth for my family? And we've been so blessed with what this business has brought to our lives. And it's allowed me to explore other passions and other lines of work. So for the last couple of years, besides our real estate business, I started doing different types of coaching, including HR and family systems. And yeah.
Cool. There's like a billion questions I want to ask you, but the thing that I keep hearing come up recently is, women who built wealth for their first time, maybe the first generation, they accumulate wealth and then they don't know what to do with it. It seems like it's either end of the spectrum where they like hoard it all and they don't want to go back to where they started out from nothing, or they spend it all and they splurge and they do go back there. So what do you recommend? Has your mindset changed around wealth as you've grown it yourself?
That's some really good points. And I think both of them have been present within our family. One is this fear of, going backwards somehow. And then there's also the component of not being used to being on surplus and just unintentionally, subconsciously falling back into, even at a higher level, but still at a paycheck to paycheck situation, because your expenses rise and you feel more comfortable to spend. And then you find yourself like, oh, I also need to make so much more to support my day to day. So we've experienced both. And it's the journey of being a first generation to have, experienced wealth. And I mean, there has been a history of real estate in my life, but was a couple of generations ago, where the family had some, and this is back in Brazil. They had some real estate, they had some businesses, and then the next generation slowly squandered it all away, and nobody really picked up on the business and how to make it, sustainable for the future generations. So by the time it got to me, we come from very, very humble beginnings. And my mom brought us to Canada. She was a single mom with 2 kids. And we lived very much an immigrant life, paycheck to paycheck, living in not so great areas, going to some not great school zones, learning the language, having to start working at 14. And never really like knowing where the future was going to take us. And by the time I'm married with 2 kids, we had been progressing in life, but very slowly, and still did not have a great outlook because investing was not something that was taught to us. My mom never really had any types of investments. We didn't know how to grow wealth. We knew how to work hard and pay our bills and, primarily live paycheck to paycheck, but we didn't know what else was there and how else do you break through this. So working, the first piece that I did to even break through the first level of wealth was my mindset and my subconscious beliefs about money. That's how it all started, really, of me being like, wait a minute, something has got to give here. And really the episodes that sort of shifted things was my mom went through a mental health crisis and moved in with my husband and I, my 2 kids. And that's when it really hit me. I'm like, oh man, not only do I have to provide for my kids, but now I have to take care of my mom. And we are, really like hardly making ends meet. So how do people do this? How do people grow wealth? How do people, live comfortably? How do you live in surplus? And that was really what started me my wealth building journey. And it really started with me confronting my own beliefs around money and how people make money, and how difficult it was to get access to money, how it doesn't grow on trees, how all these things that I've heard growing up, um, and expanding my capacity to hold wealth, and then taking a lot of action to put things into place, build a business, buy the real estate, manage it well, learned a ton of skills. And over time, it compounded like it usually does.
You're sharing a lot of gold, so I really, really appreciate it, and so grateful that you're here. And Adrienne, as you're sharing, you sound so grounded and grounded in gratitude as well. Was that natural? Did you have to work at that along the way? Were you always this way?
I was not. So this is and this is why it was so natural to go into coaching, because I coach people on their subconscious and what's going on in there. The truth is, I was very used to living in survival mode. And that showed up in many different ways in my life. That showed up in the amount of stress that I was in constantly. That showed up in my eating habits and my health. I was constantly struggling with my weight back and forth, and I had periods of being quite unhealthy. That showed up in my relationship with my kids and how angry I would feel, how much I would yell at them, and all these things, because life just felt very stressful so much of the time. Even though we were making progress financially, by the time we hit and had broken through different levels of wealth in our lives, I look back and I'm like, oh my gosh, like my health is not in a good place. My relationship with my kids is not where it could be. My marriage was in really big trouble. And I was like, what was all that for? What was all this hard work for to get here? And yes, we have a nice house and a nice car and money in the bank account and all these properties, but my life is, far from where I wanted it to be. And again, that's where I went back to what's going on in here, what's causing all of this stress and anxiety and loops that my brain keep getting me into. That's resulting in a life that's not really what I want. And I took a pause. I stopped. And also with the market change, we paused acquisitions in the business. We worked really hard at management of our current assets and making sure everything was there and going well. We did have a development project on the background, and I took a pause. And I went and I worked on my mindset, and I worked on ultimately healing a lot of trauma that I had experienced early on in life, so that I could get myself to a better place. And it completely changed my life. It changed my marriage. We went from being separated to reconstructing and being the best place we've been. I've been married for 17 years.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. That's been amazing. I worked on my health and taking care of myself. And then I worked on my relationship with my kids and overall friends and family, and just back to grounding, back to wholeness inside. And grateful is a good word, because I was just out to lunch with friends yesterday, including Ilona, and I said, I just feel grateful. I wake up daily and I feel really grateful for all the hard work that we've put in. But also it shows me and others that got to witness my transformation, how it's possible to, even though you're operating in the same business and the same circumstances in your life, to be in such a different place internally that it completely shifts everything around you.
It's amazing, when you're in alignment and what you're in alignment with and what you attract when you're in that alignment, right? Like even us just being able to have this conversation and you sharing about being out with your friends. So last week when I was in Portugal, my friend Alana flew from Canada to meet me for the weekend. And every morning we woke up, we're just like, man, we're so lucky. We're just so lucky. We're so I don't know how many times we both said it back and forth at random times. So that's really cool to hear you say that too. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of crossover between business and investing. And it's interesting because you started kind of out in the real estate investing side, now moving more to the coaching side, still doing both. For me, I think, I don't want to say in an arrogant way that I've mastered business, but it's almost like I think if I went and started another one, I'd be bored, because I think like it'd be too quick. Like I want to learn something new, and I'm always so hungry and curious to keep doing the next thing. So I want to transition more into the investing side. But it kind of flows back and forth because, it's like both have to generate cash and cash flow. And some businesses or some business owners, I think, aren't sure which investment to start with or where they invest, because you have to put that money somewhere.
Yes.
On both sides. So what thoughts are coming to mind for you around that?
Yeah, that's such a good point. So my husband's been in the construction business for a long time. So we've owned we're entrepreneurs, we're an entrepreneurial family, and we have owned several businesses over time. He's been primarily in the construction. I've jumped a few different businesses because, like you said, I tend to get bored a little quicker. But the business that has made us and made all the difference in our financial life has been in real estate. There's nothing else that even comes close to comparing what the compounding effect of real estate generates. And I mean, it's not me saying it the first time. As we know, it's a well-proven strategy. So I do think the importance for business owners to be setting intentional income aside for investing in growth is prevalent in any business owner's life, and between stocks and diversifying. But real estate is such a solid way to grow wealth long term. You hold, and when I first got started in real estate, all the real estate investors that I was training with kept telling me 5 years, wait 5 years. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I understand that this is a long-term process here. And the reason why I created the business was I needed active income while I was building real estate. And I thought, what best way to create a business where not only am I creating an active income now, but I'm also building for the long term. And this is why I hyper-focused on it. And that's exactly what it did for us. It created different types of active streams as we were building the equity side of our real estate portfolio and our net worth side. And then when the checks come, they are beautiful. They're, really substantial, especially as I kept moving into, we started with smaller fourplexes primarily, and I moved on to apartment buildings and larger scale and all development. So the numbers have also increased as we have scaled our businesses. Where does an investor start? I always recommend to touch base with somebody that knows what they're doing. So touch base with a company that's been investing for a while, touch base with a coach or mentor that can understand what your situation is, how much funds you have to invest, what is your risk management, when and where should you be investing. And this gives you a starting point of like, okay, I know what I'm doing. A lot of investors will try to go on their own right away, and they don't realize how much work and knowledge and expertise is required to make a deal successful. So I've had quite a few investors that invest with us. I raise capital and we bring in financial partners to invest in our projects with us that will go and buy a property on their own and come back later and be like, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, can you help? Can you invest the funds for us? So, and it's just a beautiful way for passive investors who are busy in their regular business with their regular families to invest in projects that they wouldn't be able to access on their own.
Absolutely. Do you have to be registered as an investor in Canada to be able to make those types of investments with you?
So you do have to be an accredited investor. So it's not registered per se. It is you do like sign a document where you say, I understand what an accredited investor is, and I am. The other couple of options is family and friends or business associates. So if you have a long-term relationship with somebody and there's a lot of trust and understanding, it's a protection for the investor to make sure that they know what they're getting into. Now there's legal documents. You are sharing the documents with your lawyer who is looking after your interests and making sure this is a type of investment that you do want to get involved in.
Yeah, for sure. And it totally makes sense. And I think it helps with the whole risk part that you talked about earlier. Just having the conversation with Mark Ferris, it's interesting the difference between cross borders, right? Because I think he shared in the US, it's that you have to have $1 million in assets to back up anything that you invest.
So within Canada, that's one of the items that you could leverage if you have $1 million of assets, but then they also give you the option of income. So if you are making $100,000 as an individual a year, or $200,000 as a household, or $1 million of assets. So there's a few options to choose from on what qualifies you as an accredited investor. And then, like I said, they give you the option of business associates. So investors that have invested with us in the past are considered business associates at this point. So they are able to reinvest in multiple deals with us, which is beautiful because we like building long-term relationship with our investors.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Adriana, you guys chose, you said St. John, New Brunswick, right?
That's right.
Is there, what homework or research or what attracted you to that area?
Yeah, it was an interesting shift because my husband and I started investing in Ontario, and we grew a portfolio here. And really the first thing that I started to notice that was quite difficult in Ontario was the landlord-tenant, relationships, which is very unfortunate. At the end of the day, I understand that it's there to protect the tenants, but it creates, instead of creating a way for us to discuss and, find solutions, it just creates a lot of conflict. So that's really the first thing that started to wear out of me. I'm like, this is tough. It's hard to be a landlord in Ontario, to be honest. And this is one of the reasons why investors are like, okay, I don't know that I can take that on. So just meeting up, I've been part of a lot of networks. I did a lot of education in real estate, a few $100,000 of educating myself and learning how to do this. And somebody mentioned that there were provinces that were landlord friendly in Canada. And I thought, okay, I didn't know that was the case. And New Brunswick was one of them. At that time, I had met a colleague who was investing out there in St. John and had quite a few conversations with different investors in that area as I started my due diligence process of understanding like the market there. I called property management companies. I called construction companies. I called other investors that I knew in the area, and just was doing a lot of work on like what do the numbers look like out there, and ended up partnering with this colleague who had already a portfolio out there, and we started purchasing multifamily together and have built a portfolio out there.
So I've heard you say it a couple of times, you're doing different partnerships, working with different collaborations. Are there certain, maybe there are values that stand out for when you choose to collaborate with somebody that you look at? And maybe it's your gut instinct at this point, but because you've been doing it so many times?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely got way more now, for sure. You can tell if there's alignment, but ultimately I'm looking for somebody. This is not about getting rich quick. I don't do deals that I'm in and out. I don't do, we have a construction company, we never did a flip. Like, because that wasn't my intention from the beginning. My intention was to build wealth. I wasn't interested, and yes, I needed the active component. So we built something around that gave us active components. But I wasn't interested in and out. So I'm looking for partners that are wanting to get into real estate and are looking to be there long-term. And are looking to manage, sustain, and operate these apartment buildings long-term. 5 years, the minimum term that we will enter into a partnership with, but we ideally want to be at least 10 years in. And it's exciting when you see the numbers of 5 and 10 years. As I said earlier, so many of the people that I was looking up to when I first started were saying, just wait 5 years. And it was so funny because on the 4.5-year mark, that's when we got our very, very first $1 million paycheck. And I was like, oh, okay. That's what they've been talking about. Just wait 5 years. And it was exactly at the 5-year mark where we saw our first big exits. And I thought, oh my gosh, yes, I see it now. I see how this can grow, your wealth. And obviously we took the majority of that money and reinvested back into more properties. And so yeah, long-term is what I'm looking for. Somebody who understands that real estate will grow wealth over time and compound. Obviously, somebody that there's a lot of trust in what we do. I'm really, really good at communicating with our investors. They have my phone number. I send quarterly reports out. They have access to my calendar to book meetings. So I'm very present. We're not as big as some other companies, possibly. The gentleman that you were just talking about has a larger company, but I'm very investor focused. And I want to make sure that you know. And then we love so for our development, we're actually taking our investors to go see the building being built once we have, it started off the ground, as a way to continue to engage them in what we're doing and what they're investing in.
Quick pause for a second. If you're loving conversations like this is exactly the kind of energy we build inside the WOW Collective. It's a community of women growing serious businesses and doing it together. Now let's get back to the conversation.
I think as entrepreneurs, we have this really good skill set around figure out ability.
Yes.
We say we're either winning or we're learning. So
That's
I'm curious if you've had any expensive learning experiences along the journey.
Yeah, so it's yes, I have. There's been some losses. Surprisingly, nothing significant. Not surprisingly, I shouldn't say that. I just watched a lot of colleagues over the last 3 years or so have really, really big losses. And that was one of the things that kept bringing me back to gratefulness, because as I watched, I mean, these are good people, good colleagues that just went through really massive losses, bankruptcy, consumer proposals, not being able to pay back their investors, losing properties. And as I was watching it happen and having these conversations, I started to wonder, like, what did we do right here? What's the difference between, because like we were in the same rooms and we were learning the same things. Like, what did you do differently? Yeah, because it was almost like it was a learning on the other side. Like, what did I do right?
Mm-hmm.
And a couple of things that really highlighted to me was a lot of the investors that got into trouble, they were very over leveraged. So, borrowing a lot of money at high interest rates and just creating some sort of snowball effect. I remember talking to a company at that time that was raising a lot of capital, and one of the investors talking to me what their model was, and I was immediately wondering, I'm like, how are they going to pay this back? Like, I don't know their ins and outs, but that just doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah. So some of the things that we did right was I didn't scale too fast. So the thing, like, you get excited and you build a system for finding properties and acquisitions, and then you just keep acquiring. So just managing the scaling that in a way that was sustainable, because every time we pick up a real estate building, we're picking up a project. We're renovating these buildings, we're getting new tenants in, there's all component of stabilizing the asset. So growing sustainably instead of too quick, not over leveraging by borrowing a lot of funds with high interest rates. So these are like private loans agreements and things like that. We focus 95% of our business is on equity partnerships. So you're coming in and we're growing our wealth together. You have an equal share of the profits. We're not, it's not a quick in and out again. And then not over leveraging was a big factor in seeing that happen. The losses that I've taken so far, we've had a couple properties that we had on a contract that we put in a deposit, and in our due diligence process, we decided not to move forward with the property. So we lost that. And we're talking about like $5,000-$6,000 in each. And then over time, we've had to do some short loans for a project that needed additional loans. We get paid back at the end. So there's been things like that. But outside of that, we haven't really experienced
massive losses.
Learnings, but not necessarily losses.
Yeah.
When I picked up my very, very first project, it's like, real estate investing university 101. And to your point, my energy around that project was, you know what, I'm really going to put all of me in here. And regardless if it fails miserably, I'm going to take all the learnings and I'm going to do it again. And I'm going to make it better, and I'm going to learn what I need to learn. So having that perspective has been really helpful, because every time there's a learning, we implement and integrate right away into the future deals. We just get better and better and better at doing what we do.
Adriana, has your identity shifted along the way? Like I know you said at one point you had to take a pause. Have you
Yeah.
had to relook at that?
100%. I mean, and I love because I've had a real estate podcast. I have my social media that's been going on for a few years. And you can probably look back at me, a few years ago and where that was at. It definitely shifted quite a bit, and especially in the last 2 years, as I mentioned. I went through like a few years of hustling and putting things together to then come to that place that I just shared with you, where I was like, wow, okay, I know there's been a lot of progress and success here, but something is not quite right internally.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening was I went to a psychedelics retreat, and with mushrooms, and really had the most like Pandora box experience that you can imagine, of like just opening and accessing things that I didn't know were inside that were causing me to loop in specific patterns. And that's where a lot of deep healing started to happen. And that's what I help clients move through now, because I also was a real estate coach. And what I realized in coaching real estate was there's only so much that you can teach somebody how to do something until they get stuck in their limits, their
Yeah.
limits of patterns and beliefs that are in there. And I would be teaching them and showing them exactly how to do things, and they would struggle. Like, I don't know how to, raise a cat. And I'm like, you have the information in front of you. So it was going beyond discipline, beyond the manual, beyond the systems of how to do it. There was something inside that was keeping them stuck. And that's when as I did my own work, I'm like, I can see now how to help, investors and clients in a deeper way that goes beyond them just giving them the formula on how to build their real estate, how to invest, how to grow wealth, to go actually into healing something that's internal that's been keeping them stuck.
Do you do that more than once? Like, is it a one-time thing, or is it a frequency thing of how many times you should do it, that experience?
These psychedelics?
Yeah.
Yeah. So great question. There's a lot of data out there on what's effective when it comes to psychedelics. There's a lot of data. There's been a lot of research. It's been researched for a long time. There's been more and more documentaries coming out, which I really appreciate, of people being able to know the science behind how this works. And it's been studied clinically for a long time. It's not something that's just off. I'd say for most people and clients, 3 times is ideal to seek remission of any symptoms. And that could be depression, PTSD, that could be loops in your brain. That would be like ideally the max number that somebody would explore doing something like that. I got into it and I did a few retreats, maybe about 3, and a couple personal sessions, because at that time, my husband and I were going through a really rough patch in our marriage. And this work completely changed our relationship. It's really, really beautiful when it comes to marriage and romantic partnerships, what the psychedelic space can do. And it really, really changed the course of our marriage, in the way that we relate to each other, understand each other, in our own personal healings. And it gave us a new lease on our marriage, talking about identity shift, talking about a rebirth experience that we experienced there. But we also like working around money blocks, growing your business, relationships with kids, family members, parents is a big one. A lot of people experience a lot of triggers when interacting with their family of origin. And then just overall life satisfaction. Like, a lot of us get stuck in loops of complaining, negativity, suffering. And psychedelics gives you such a beautiful new opening in your brain to be able to explore higher emotions like happiness and joy and satisfaction and love.
I know after our last conversation, I added it to my bucket list to do it with you, because I don't know what I don't know, and I'm totally open to it. But I'd like to do it with somebody that I trust to guide the experience. And I think as entrepreneurs, a lot of people try to keep life and business separate, and it's impossible. I think
It's
it's just life.
Yes, that's what I realized coaching real estate. I'm like, oh, like I just
Yeah,
there is more here. There is more work. And for me, being able to unlock that, like it just changed my life. I'm like, I can't, it's so grateful to, it's uncomfortable, mind you. And
we can't move forward without the uncomfortable, right?
right. That's where growth comes from, as we know. And it's just like going through your business and going through the steps, and it's uncomfortable as you're pushing yourself, as you're growing. Very similar with this work, just growing and expanding your awareness and ultimately unlocking your subconscious. There's just so much programming that we're running with that we just don't, I didn't. I thought it was all my husband's fault. It's all my part. Like it's your fault. Clearly, you're the one to blame. And it wasn't until I was able to access and sit with myself and look in the mirror that I was able to see, like, oh, I could see how I'm contributing to this dynamic and to these results in my life.
Right. I've seen a lot of in business, maybe one person is the business, the entrepreneur, and the other person might be stay at home, taking care of the children, or both are in business and both lead really busy lives. And either way, there's just different opportunities, challenges, conflicts that can arise with either one. So when you said it helped with your marriage, I think that's amazing. And do you recommend couples do it together or separate?
Yeah, so it's so powerful for marriages. A lot of my clients are couples. It goes both ways. Now, do you do it together or separately? It depends. When I first did my personal work, we did it separately because I was at a place where I'm like, felt pretty done in my relationship, and I just could not even open that possibility at that time. So we did work separately. But what made, and it took us time. We were working individually on ourselves. And that's what I wanted at the time. Like, you work on yourself, I'm going to work on myself. If we find our way back, we find our way back. And it was actually a retreat that we did together. And we sat in this living room for 6 hours talking. I was sitting on his lap and we just looked in each other's eyes and talked for 6 hours. I had never experienced being able to talk to him like that ever, and to be heard and understood, and vice versa, to the point that I was burping. I was having a physical reaction because I had so much that I was getting out of my system. And what the psychedelics do is they do a few things. They allow you to drop in from your logical mind, where that's the looping that's going on, into your heart and into your body. And not that you're not thinking, but your critical mind is not the one that's running the show at that point anymore. The same way that it normally is. When you get into an argument and you're arguing about the same thing, like, it actually allows you to break that. And now you're moving into your heart and into your body. It also inhibits the amygdala in the brain, which is your fear mechanism. So the things that you're so scared, so triggered to talk about, to even say, that you can't even get it out of your system, you're able to more easily access them. And it brings you such a deep connection of love with yourself and with the other person, that you can actually sit and with a place of a lot of compassion and empathy and listen. When you're triggered and you're looping, you can't really do that. So it was that was the turning point for our marriage, was that retreat and being able to feel each other in such a different way, and ultimately realize we wanted the same things. We loved each other so deeply. We were just getting caught up on some of our own internal trauma that were generating certain dynamics and loops and keeping us at a distance.
Yeah, so good. What are you excited for next? What is there, you found this new inspiration. What is your new mission or inspiration, and what are you excited about?
That's a great question. And you know what? Something that's shifted in me, I don't, and I mean, I have goals, but I don't live in the future anymore. Like, I used to live so much, okay, once we get to this many properties, once we get to this much cash flow, then, and that's really what got me in trouble, because I was just future living. And when I looked back, I was like, oh, Like I've been completely dismissing all these areas of my life that are so important for my overall well-being, my health, my kids, my marriage, like, and I no longer live in the future. I no longer live in the past. And this is why I use the word grounded. I get that a lot from people. You seem so grounded, because I really live so much more in the present. I'm good. I literally
so
have
happy that was your answer. I'm so happy.
everything that I could ever want. And I am excited for what's to come, but I'm not more excited than where I am right now. I'm so happy and excited to where I am right now. And not that I don't have challenges. I don't want to make it sound like that. You know, I have my days and I have ups and downs, and we have stressors that come along the way. But I can handle them so differently now. When like just something recently this week happened in the business, and we're having a conversation with my partner, and we had to make a quick decision. Before, I would have probably got stuck feeling really strongly about that, very triggered for maybe a few days, and feeling really defensive and feeling really, you know, just like urgent and scared. And I was like, I was able to experience that by like the emotions came, but I was able to regulate and process them so quickly. Within 20 minutes, we had the solution in hand. And I was like so proud of myself for the progress of working at getting there. So I do look forward to the future, but I'm also just so in the present and have learned to enjoy where I am today.
So I can guess that would be your answer to my next question, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
But if you were to go back to your past self, your younger self, first starting out in this world, what advice would you give your younger self?
You know, I love this question because it talks a lot about like the work that I do. So the truth is, I love every version of me. I love her back then. I look at pictures, and first of all, when I even show it to my kids, I look at pictures from back then, and I can't even recognize me. It's like a whole different person, and she was. And I showed it to my kids not that long ago, and they're like, "Who is that?" It's mommy, like you know. And I love her because she was doing the very best that she could. And she had good intentions, you know. She's like, I want to help my family. I want to figure this out. I want to be able to, you know, grow wealth. And with what she had at that time, where she was, what she knew, what she had access to, she did the very best that she could. And I honestly, I would say, good job. Thank you. Thank you for bringing me here. Thank you for bringing me to where I am today. So part of the work that I do with internal family systems, it's really bringing harmony to all the parts of you, old versions, future versions, but also all the different parts, the parts that felt scared, the parts that felt anxiety, the parts that had something to prove, the parts that, you know, pushed you forward. Like they're all are beautiful, and they all came to protect you, and they all got you as far as they could. So a lot of gratitude for that version, for that person that did the very best that she could.
I love that answer. I've focused probably on this past year a lot more on the identity piece. And it's like, I forgave my previous self and thanked myself and said, that's the version I had to be to live in that situation. And thank you for surviving that situation. And thank you for going through that. And who do I want to become next? And, or what do I want my life to look like? And who do I need to become to live in that life? Like, who do I need to, yeah. So I love that. You have been so generous with your time and your insights, and I am really grateful for you. But is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you? Any parting words for anyone who's a woman just maybe jumping into entrepreneurship for the first time?
Yeah. It's very possible. I started when my kids were very, very little. And like I said, my mom living with me and handling all the things that we got to, we handle on a day-to-day, family and business and money and marriage and all of it. It's a lot. It's possible. I'd say pace yourself. Sometimes we get into a rush. And to me now, life is way more about sustainability than it is about the big highs and then the crash. we don't realize that reaching burnout takes years to recover from. When you reach burnout, it can take you 2-3 years to recover from. Instead, if you had just moved at a pace where you are managing, life and staying regulated, taking care of yourself, that will get you further faster than if you go through these big pushes and then burn out and crash and then recovering for a couple of years and then you go again. So it's very possible, and you can allow yourself to pace. You don't have to compare. You don't have to go at everybody's pace. You don't have to live off of, social media highlight reels and thinking you need to be somewhere else. Moving at your pace that feels good to you, that is sustainable in the long term.
So good. So good. Adriana, if anyone wants to reach out to you for coaching or an experience or investing, what do you recommend they do?
Yeah, so Instagram, probably be the best place. You can also send me an email, hello@ace-properties.com. And you do have my links for my calendar, booking a call on Instagram at Adriana.Ostapenko.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mallory.
If this conversation sparked something for you, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This is The Wow Effect. See you next time.